If they do that, they're going to be very, 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 very tough to beat.
Wilson! Oh! And we are tied!
Let's go! Call them by Slamma.
And I don't ever let them forget where we come from.
Getting those phones out. Report me acting ignorant.
Dayon Kris got his way through, and he may go! Kris is in! Houston leads out of nowhere! Seventh heaven for Houston. The Cougars advance to their seventh Final Four. Go Cougs! Let's go! It's so good! The dream remains alive for the Houston Cougars!
Welcome into another episode of Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family. We're coming off the heels of an 82-67 victory by the 8th-ranked Houston Cougars men's basketball team over Florida State on this Saturday night. Big thank you to Mr. Steve Saxenian for being a primary sponsor of this edition. Also, a big thank you to Star Pizza for being a secondary sponsor on tonight's show. Kris, Dayon, I hope your Saturday night is going well. Let's get into the victory for the Cougs. Big night for Emmanuel Sharp. Good game by Kingston Flemings and a pretty solid game by Kris and Knack. What are your guys' thoughts on this performance and this victory for Houston that bumps them up to 8-1 on the season?
It was a good game offensively. They shot well. Kingston, Emmanuel did well. Kris shot well. As Coach said post-game, they have to improve their defensive rebounding. I think the fans know that. We touched on it before. And then second chance points. Florida State was 18-7 in second chance points. So that is an area still for improvement. But they still won by 15. So it's another positive. And Coach, he said it again in post-game. He likes the upside of this team. And that's not something that Kevin Sampson says a lot. So he said it again about this team. But he does know that they have room for improvement.
Yeah, and they're getting better game by game. I think as the chemistry continues to get better and they settle into roles specifically with this team, I think the sky's the limit. I think during the broadcast they were kind of talking about how we replaced Cryer and J1 with 2 lottery picks, and that makes our upside a lot better. I definitely agree with that assessment.
And he did also say that he has to get scoring from the bench as well. So we've had that comment before on these shows. Coach Sampson acknowledged that too.
Yeah, that bench scoring was absolutely lopsided in this win for Houston. FSU bench scored 31 points to Houston's just 6 points. I want to point out once again, when we look at the minute numbers, talking about JoJo Tugler once again got into a foul trouble in the first half, and that kind of limited his minutes throughout the game. And you can tell in spurts, right? Sometimes there'll be some lapses when he gets off the floor. But I think something that the FSU head coach really mentioned and touched on in his postgame presser was he was really impressed by how well Houston not only blitzed the ball relentlessly over the course of the game, but how disciplined they were with their hands, just really getting in the passing lane and getting a hand on the ball. And that's something that we've seen from previous. I mean, that's not new for the Houston Cougars. That's what they're known for. We've seen with different iterations of the team. It's good to see that at this stage, barely early December, that this team, albeit not perfect for an entire game, they're doing it in stretches. And I think they were much better tonight defensively than they were, at least in spurts at times in Vegas, would say y'all.
In spurts, not consistent enough yet, not up to Cougar standards defensively, but that standard is so high. And I think this team, it scored 17 fast break points, but they also had turnovers, which limited other fast break opportunities. So you cut down on those. This game is not a 15-point win. It's maybe a 20-point win. So it's still areas of improvement, room for improvement. What's the record, Andy?
They're 8-1.
They're 8-1, and they still have a lot of room to get better. I'll take that.
Well, you said it perfectly. I mean, I take that 8-1, and conference play is right around the corner, and I think conference play going to be really challenging. I watched Iowa State blow out Purdue, and I think we're getting better. I think we although Milos didn't make shots today, he did a great job of playmaking, and I think when he's making plays, whether making shots or creating plays for other ones, he's just going to make us better.
And one thing Coach Sampson said that Milo's the shots he missed tonight were the shots he made during the tournament run last year in the Big 12 tournament run as well. A lot of shots were good shots. He just didn't make them. So the offense, this is my take right now, and I make Coach will disagree. That's okay. I think the offense is a little bit ahead of the defense right now, especially after tonight. And so when the defense does come along, just imagine what it is, because I still think the perimeter defense has room for improvement. I think JoJo's second foul was because the guards got beat defensively, and he had to go over to help, and he took a knee to the gut to me on the second foul, but the refs called it differently.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I I agree with you, Chris, that I think head coach that Kelvin Sampson would disagree with it, and it's kind of interesting. We see the comment there from me at Crab about the stats, right? They kind of tend to disagree. They have Houston 29th offensively, 6th in defense, but it's very subtle. Because when we talk about this game and how Houston began, like at the beginning, the first 3-4 minutes of this game, it looked like the Houston Cougars that we kind of in a spurt. They looked like the Houston Cougars from last year, from previous years, right, where they're relentless on defense, they're swarming all over the ball, and they're getting turnovers, and it looked like Florida State just wasn't ready to handle that defensive intensity by the Cougars. Kingston Clemens, he touched on it in his post-game presser. Once the game as it continues, one, I think opposing teams obviously kind of get to settle down and get used to that intensity by Houston. But also on the flip side, the Houston Cougars themselves at times can get tired, which is what Kingston Flemings talked about when he was mentioning about what area he can focus on specifically, right? Once the fatigue sets in, maybe that defensive intensity is not all the way where it needs to be. And looking at the minute breakdowns, right? Kingston Flemings tonight played 37 minutes, Manuel Sharp 37 minutes. Milo in 34 minutes. And going back to your original point about the bench, and right now, some of the guards coming off the bench are just not producing at enough level where some of those guys have to play these types of minutes.
And that is room for improvement. And Coach Sampson, he put Mercy Miller in because he was, I think, frustrated with a few players. But then Mercy had two straight possessional defense where he got beat. He did make a 3-pointer before he was subbed out, but defensively, he has room for improvement. And Isaiah Harwell and Chase McCarty both went 0 for 2 from 3. So their defense is not good enough to keep them on the floor, and their offense isn't either. So that's why Coach didn't play them more minutes either. So both of them are still struggling to get better. Isaiah's still struggling to knock down his shot, and he's still thinking about his shot. And I think he's letting one missed shot lead to another missed shot, and he has to just play through it. And once he does that, then that will help the bench production. You look at the 31-6 bench, but then you turn that around, and 76 to 36 starters. So it's perspective as well.
It is, but luckily our starters play so well. Emmanuel showed he's doing a great job shooting the ball. I know he made 6 threes. He's doing a good job of attacking closeouts. That's one thing he's going to need to do through conference play and once we get through the tournament, especially when his jump shot is falling because of the scouting report. It is to make him drive and show that he can create, not even create, but just score off the dribble. He did a good job of doing that. So now we're going to need him doing that going forward. But Kingston played really well. I think just his pace he plays with, the way he's able to attack off the catch, his first step. He's got to get those turnovers down. 4 turnovers, 5 assists. It's not a good ratio. But Milo's adding those 8 assists and Emmanuel shot making. I think our guards play well. Outside of Milo's really not making shots, he still had a good game. I think that's the key. But the bench production, we're gonna need bench production because it's gonna be games where all of our starters may not be making shots, and gonna need that spark and really some sort of consistency off the bench. Who's gonna bring some consistencies in which they can earn those minutes, earn those trusts, and kind of carve out themselves a role.
And that's another thing Coach touched on as well. One thing that I think is a great point. The guards did not rebound. The guards aren't rebounding like they did last year. Emmanuel had no rebounds. And it's tough to score easy buckets if your guards don't rebound, because if your guards rebound one of those long missed shots, they can get it and go. Well, if they don't get the rebound, then you're giving them second chance points. So, coach, he harped on that. He commented on that. So that's another area of improvement. Emmanuel is a good rebounder, so it's rare for him not to have any rebounds. So I think that'll be, something that he'll get better at the rest of this month, and then once conference play begins. But Kris 15 and 10, that's good. That's a solid number for him, solid production. But he had 4 turnovers. So your two key freshmen combined for 8 turnovers, 8 of the team's 13. They got to cut down on that, and they will.
That's something that Coach Sampson made it a point of emphasis in his post-game presser. Real quickly, I'd like to take a moment, pause, and give a shout-out first to those of you that are tuning in to watch us on this Saturday night following Houston's 82-67 victory over FSU. And, of course, we also like to say thank you to our sponsors, beginning with Steve Saxenian for being the primary sponsor of not only tonight's edition of Let's Rage Coogs, but he has been the primary sponsor each and every single episode of LRC this season. And of course, big thank you to Star Pizza with 3 locations throughout the Houston area. Star Pizza is your go-to stop before or after the game. If you're just joining us, we'll have a little bit of a condensed post-game show due to us recording from the Toyota Center, and hopefully we don't we're on a crunch time. So, just be a shorter post game than usual. But going back to your point, or actually this comment, I might say, it's Crab who asked the question: who do y'all think the bench production is most likely going to come from? I'll take a crack at it first. I'll tell you who it's supposed to come from, and like you said, Kris, right now it's just not there. I think the biggest issue is mentally above all else, and that's Isaiah Harwell. When you talk about at least the way that the team looks like it at least offensively, I think if we're talking about bench production, that's a person that they probably counted or should have more offensive production, more production in general than he's just given you in tonight. Like you said, came in, wasn't really effective, only played 3 minutes 52 seconds, and right now there's still a lot of things he has to figure out.
Agreed. And even Ramon didn't play a lot of minutes off the bench. Ramon came off a good scoring game from him in the last game. I'd like to see Isaiah get something going to the basket, get to the free throw line, not come in shooting threes because he's struggling to make threes right now. So he needs to see the ball go in the hoop. And I think that will help him get some confidence in his game, in his offense. Yeah, I think Isaiah is the guy you'd like to see bench production come from, but it might be Mercy. It hasn't been Chase McCarty yet consistently. As Dayon touched on it, it's like Dayon was here in postgame because Coach Sampson also said the team isn't playing well consistently. You have 2 or 3 guys playing well, but other 3 or 4 guys not playing well at the same time. So that is just one of those things that they will get better. They will be more consistent. They will get production from other more than 2 or 3 guys in a game. And then once they do that, continue to do that on a consistent basis, they'll keep winning. And it's funny, both of us are side by side here, and kudos to the Toyota Center staff for allowing us to do this from the Rockets media room for these few minutes. So, because we are short on time, but we'll bring you Let's Rage Coogs here from the bowels of Toyota Center.
Dayon, what say you? Who do you think the bench production? Who do you think has to give a lot more of the bench production?
Like he can't hear us. He's not. Yeah, he's not responding.
No, audio just came back in. I left the air, but my audio wasn't good. Last thing I heard, you was kind of saying it looked like I kind of felt like I was in the press conference, and then I lost sound after that.
Oh well, who do you think, or who do you expect bench production to come from?
I mean, I think Hartwell. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Hartwell. It should come from him, and is expected to come from him. I think, kind of like you said, instead of cutting, and when he's struggling to make shots, maybe Coach Sam can come in and get him, use his size for his advantage, and kind of get him in that mid post area, allow him to create a play. It was kind of tough because they're going against a zone today, but he could have attacked off the dribble. So I think either Isaiah or Mercy. I think one of those two, or it could be Chase McCartney because he's going to get wide open shots, and his ability to show that he can shoot. He just be consistent. He needs to be consistent, knocking down those corner threes and those space. and being that spacer that we need. So I think one of those three, McCarty is gonna have a chance because I think he's one of getting that minutes coming in from one of the posts. But one of the guards have to, whether Mercy or Isaiah, somebody kind of got to step up and kind of establish that role and what their role is going to be. They're both getting the time, but neither has been consistent to kind of earn that consistent minutes within the role, kind of like Malik did. And so I think it's going to take time, and one of them is going to have to separate themselves. Or Ramon, I mean, he did it last game, and with his experience, he's shown his development. So I think, and we know what else he's going to bring defensively. He's going to rebound. He's going to be in a position to take charges, rotate, and so it has to be someone. And I think Coach Sampson was figured out.
I think McCarty is an interesting wild card because we talked about last year when obviously he didn't see the floor, didn't get a lot of minutes, but we talked about really the sharpshooting that he would bring to the table, and just so far he hasn't been able to consistently find his touch, his stroke, and I think that's something where if he is able to find rhythm, that's going to do a lot for Houston, not just in terms of obviously points, but just spacing the floor, right? If you have to respect him and close out on the corner, that's going to give a lot of these guards a lot more space to attack, drive, kick, and that's ultimately going to open up the floor for everyone, and it's going to benefit the team as a whole.
The team had 23 assists and made 32 baskets. So when the ball is moving, the offense looks much better, and obviously when shots go in, the offense looks much better. But when sometimes the ball gets sticky and they get stationary, they don't have a good player movement or ball movement, things kind of slow down for them. But also at times when they did not secure, Cougs played good initial defense for much of this game, but they did not secure the missed shot. So that second line of defense, when they allowed the second chance points, that's room for improvement because, they forced FSU to miss shots, but they did not close out the defensive possession with a defensive rebound. And FSU got 18 points like that. So that's something to fix, and that's unlike Cougs of Cougs teams past. So once this team fixes that, I think this team. I agree with Dizzy B. I think the ceiling for this team is real high.
And like you said at the beginning of the show, that's something that Kelvin. Wait, here I am. Muted. I forgot that I muted myself. Kris, like you said at the beginning of the show, that's something that head coach Kelvin Sampson himself mentioned, and it was his words, right? He thinks that this team has a lot of potential, and he's really high on. And like you said at the beginning, Kris, that's something that we don't necessarily hear often from Sampson, and he said it tonight after the game.
And the low post threat, this team is different. Okay, this team does not have Juwan Roberts in the post. This team does not have a back down, offensive threat. Kris is going to get his points probably in the mid-range. But this team still outscored FSU in the paint 34-24. So this team beats the opponent off the dribble and attacks the basket and finishes. They did a better job of finishing tonight than they did in Vegas. So that helped them score more points in the paint. So this team is going to score points differently than last year's team until JoJo develops consistency. That's a word we're using in tonight's show. Consistency in the post with his low post 1 or 2 looks a half. So if he develops that, then you will have a low post threat. But right now, you don't have that right now consistently.
And he had one in the first half. He had a move where he looked good. And like you said, that right now he's just averaging maybe 1 or 2 a game. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing for JoJo Tugler is he's got to stay on the floor. He's got to stop getting in foul trouble.
And that's an issue. That's a key factor, because if the team wants to go through him on the block, well, JoJo has to be on the floor for them to go through him on the block. He cannot be on the bench in foul trouble. But like I said, that second foul called on him. He took a knee to the gut. I don't know how that was following him, but that's what the ref called. And we probably have like 10 more minutes of the show before we get kicked out.
Well, we kind of hit on all the major key points. I think one of the things, right, they still have about 3 to 4 weeks, 3 weeks really, until conference play begins for Houston.
I know what I wanted to say. Thank you for bringing that up.
Go ahead, Kris.
I want your thoughts, everybody's thoughts on this. D, Andy, and our audience watching us on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. One of Brett Yormark's comments before today's Big 12 football championship game was, the Big 12 is the second best basketball league in America, behind the NBA. He said it from his chest. The Big 12 men's basketball is the second best league in America. What do I think about that?
Shots fired at the G League, huh? Shots fired at the other conferences. I mean, as the commissioner, and like you said, he said it from his chest. You gotta love that moxie. I don't know how real, maybe this year when we're talking about the teams and the talent level that they have, but I don't in America. I think they're the best college. They're the best college basketball conference this year, top to bottom, especially at the top. Talking about impressive win for the conference that we mentioned that Iowa State went up to Purdue and they dominated the Boilermakers. That was impressive. That's a strong win for the conference. I just even know Houston's going to be at the top. Arizona has looked really good so far in non-conference play. So I think this is the one season to pump your chest. It's the one year to do it. And kudos for Brett Yormark for talking his stuff.
Dan, what do you think?
Agree. I mean, I like it. I like the confidence. I mean, and the conference is really good. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, TCU lost early in the season. They bounced back and beat Florida. And you got Iowa State, who played well. We know Houston. We know Arizona, who's playing well. Cincinnati's been playing well. Baylor had a tough loss to Memphis today. But through and through, I think the Big 12 is the best conference. I think you can compare them to the SEC in football, but I think it's going to take Kansas is back too. I mean, they had a down year, and so top to bottom, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it for sure.
And the record, the Big 12 has the best record of the Power Four conferences against other Power Four opponents. So, and it's like by 10 wins. So he's right on that. We just got a 15-minute warning. I feel important that so let's let you guys know that we are on the clock here inside the building.
Yeah, Crabtree's comment, Big 12 basketball is certainly legit, especially the top 8 or so. He questions if it's better than the G League. But again, at the end of the day, Big 12, okay, talk your mess, Brett Yormark. And ultimately it comes out to see how they do in the NCAA tournament come March and April, right? Can they be like the SEC that had how many teams that they had last year? They had 11 teams.
14 in the tournament. They had 14. They had
14. Geez.
They had how many made the Sweet 16? What, like
it was
9?
8. It was 8 of them.
So 8.
They had half of the 16 and then obviously they had 2
in the final four. Yeah.
So that ultimately is going to come down to that, right?
Quiet Marshmallow. Has she ate?
Right.
Can you give us some more food?
But
She eat her food?
I will say
What you doing? Who you
so
texting?
far non-conference, for the most part, they've done a really great job, and I think that's going to hopefully that translates. And we're going to be in for a hell of a conference year. I'm excited for Houston and how conference play is this year.
And I admire Brett Yormark's maybe I'm hypocritical, but since the Cougs are in the Big 12, I like a Commissioner Yormark hyping up his conference, hyping up the teams in his conference. I mean, some would argue if that's the job of a commissioner, but if he or she doesn't do it, who will? It starts at the top. Now the other teams have to back it up, and it's every commissioner's, every conference's goal, ultimate dream, to have all 4 teams in the Final Four from the same conference. That is the ultimate, because it hasn't been done. Most is 3. So it would be the ultimate get, because it could never be beaten, duplicated, never beaten. So if that happens at some point, why not this year? Because the Cougs can get there, Iowa State could get there, Arizona could get there, BYU probably could get there, Kansas, if Dayon decides to play, big games, help get them there, that's possible as well. But I'm looking forward to this conference play. The Cougs have things to work on and get better, but they also have guys who can score differently than last year.
That's pretty much going to wrap it up for this game. Once again, the final score from inside of the Toyota Center, the 8th-ranked Houston Cougars in the country walk away with the victory 82-67 over Florida State. They improve 8-1. Florida State falls to 5-4. When we look at the box score, I should say, Emmanuel Sharp led the way for Houston in scoring, 27 points, 6 of 12 shooting
Season
from
high.
behind the arc. Yep, like you said, Kris, season high for Sharp. Kingston Flemings had 21 points, 5 assists.
I don't know
Did
what's
have
his
4
career high.
turnovers.
Has he ever scored 30?
I think
Sharp,
once or twice, yeah.
he did it. Did he do one in the Big 12 tournament or one of the tournament games? I think he has gotten to 31s.
I think so.
Are,
Yeah,
are
I see
you
if I
trying
can.
to find it?
Yeah, real quick.
We'll see if Kris can find it. Kingston Flemings had 21 points, 5 assists, 8 steals in the win, but
14 deflections, as coach told us.
yeah, he was quick to point that out. Did have 4 turnovers, which Calvin Sampson also pointed out. Kris Anak had 15 points, 10 rebounds, had a double-double, also had 4 turnovers. And it was Miles Uzan that led the way in assists tonight for Houston. He had 8 to just 1 turnover. So, at the end of the day, I feel like the best way to describe this victory is solid, right? They did just enough to win comfortably, and they still have areas to improve in, and they'll continue to do so. And now it's on to Wednesday against Jackson State.
And that's going to be a BTA game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Mo Williams, how much respect you have for Coach Sampson, but yeah, that's going to be a BTA game.
Kind of like those Mavericks did to those Rockets tonight.
Oh yeah. Oof, what happened?
I gotta wait for the replay to watch it and see. But yeah, good for the Mavs to bounce back because they lost last night, didn't they? I think was it last night or Thursday, whatever. But one Houston team won, the right one, as we're concerned. So, but yeah, real quick, I'm looking forward for Emmanuel's career high. But I want to say he got 30, at least one time got a 30 piece.
Well, Kris, while you continue to look for it one final time, big thank you to Steve Saxenian for being a primary sponsor of this edition of Let's Rage Coogs. This is LRC presented by the Saxenian Family. We are the original Houston postgame show going back to 2022, live after each and every single football and men's basketball game. Of course, we also like to say thank you to tonight's secondary sponsor in Star Pizza. Big shout out to Mike and Jennifer Pittman, who were at the game, and I hope they enjoyed this victory for Houston, and a big thank you to them. They have multiple locations throughout the Houston area. You can check them out online at starpizza.net. You can follow them on social media at starpizza HOU, Star Pizza Houston, Texas on Instagram. They have various different types of pizza, different sizes, different specials, all the things, and all you can eat buffet on Tuesdays and Fridays. That includes desserts, which Kris and I can attest are very, very good. So big thank you to those two sponsors. Big thank you to everybody that joined us on this Saturday night, and thank you for the constant support and the commentary. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Kris, I'll toss it over to you.
Emmanuel had a career high 30 against the Aggies in the tournament, March of 2024. And it's interesting. Let me see what he did. He made his career high in field goals made is 8. That's the box. That's what note said. So he set a new career high. He made 10. Because the UH game note says field goals made, career high, Sharp, 8. He made 7 threes against the Aggies. Well,
and then I'm guessing he hit a lot of free throws.
But now he made 10 field goals tonight, so that's a new career high in field goals made for Emmanuel Sharp as well. But he's got to get rebounds because zero rebounds is the same number that we had, and we did not play, and that's not a good thing. But he'll do better next game. Not worried about that. So real quick for me, thank you to everybody for joining us on this edition of Let's Rage Coogs, this shorter version of it, as we are doing it from the Toyota Center, and we're being kicked out. Not kicked out, but it's time for everybody. We're got to get ready for a concert tomorrow. So that's why we're being asked to leave and do a short show. So thank you to everyone for your comments and your questions. and would join us Wednesday. And y'all know me, would like to say, since 1994, the Houston Rounds Ball Review, local name, global perspective.
Yeah, and like Crabtree just said, growing pains and learning curves for this team, but it's trending in the right direction. We're getting better and better, I think, as the flow offensively continues to get smoother and smoother. And we're a very versatile offensive team, but iron out those kinks defensively, rebound better. We can get out of the transition, especially with our guards, because when they get the rebound, that allows us to play even faster. And so I like where the team is going. 8-1, we're on the rise. Win, lose, or draw. It's always go Cougs.